Oh my goodness.
Look who it is.
Look who it is. What an exciting evening we have planned.
This is a fun one.
This is a fun one.
This has got thrills and spills.
Yes, and a special guest who will be.
That is the thrilling, spilling part of it, really.
Yes, we will be bringing a spilling special guest on in a little while.
Something we wanted to do more of anyway. We started out early with a guest and haven't had somebody on in a while, so it's exciting.
Yes. And before we get going, though, I want to remind everybody out there in YouTube land that this is live. You can ask if you're watching it live, it's live. If you're watching it later, it's not. But it is live. You can ask questions of us. You can join in the chat with our guest. And please subscribe to this channel. You will get updates about all of our upcoming live streams on this show and the other show, Tips and Techniques for Actors, Authors, and Storytellers. And we would love to hear from you, where you're from, where you're watching from, who you are. But, Tony, tonight's movie is
1994's The Paper, starring another one that's starring. Who isn't it starring?
Who is not starring in this movie?
Starring in this film.
Yeah. Who's not starring in it? And then the next level down, who do we not know or haven't worked with at some point or bumped into on the subway?
It is an odd one that way. It's kind of like a yearbook movie. It's crazy.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
So this is The Paper, directed by Ron Howard, 1994. The year of a lot of amazing movies as well. My research. Well, this is the same year of Pulp Fiction, Natural Born Killers. So it's definitely a Tarantino year. The Professional, Time Cop. Time Cop came out in 94.
Who could forget Time Cop except for those of us who have?
The X-Files was just gaining steam right then. Interview with a Vampire, Legends of the Fall, Shawshank Redemption, a lot of very big movies. Wow. The Crow, and John Carpenter's arguably last great movie, In the Mouth of Madness. Here comes The Paper in the middle of all this. It's a very kind of macho year with Tarantino's movies, you know?
Yeah.
The Paper is this kind of throwback to Howard. It's really a love letter to Howard Hawks, really. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And it's about a day in the life of a newspaper dealing with one big story and the crisis that causes at the office and all the lives of the reporters and the city itself in New York.
Yeah.
And
the city is really a character in this movie.
The city is a true character in the movie. It's amazing to see so much of the real city in a movie that at the time I think everybody was shooting in Vancouver or in studios in LA making stuff look like New York. And this was, I think when we talk to our guest, we're going to find that this is even more of a New York movie than it looks like at first. Yeah. But it's a real New York movie. And that's so cool about it.
It's also kind of a meta movie. There's a lot of meta stuff in this movie, even before meta was a thing, right? Because you've got this mix of New York actors, all New York actors, and then real New York people.
Sure.
And then in the middle of this, I don't know if you caught this, they did this really funny thing, is that they cast Jill Hennessy as the assistant district attorney in the movie.
Yeah.
And Jill Hennessy at the time had just gained notoriety playing the assistant district attorney on Law and Order.
Oh, crazy. Okay.
She's playing essentially the same role in this movie that she's just become famous for playing on Law and Order.
Wow.
So there's all this bendy.
Right. And of course, Jason Robards shows up as one of the heads of the media conglomerate that owns the newspaper.
Right. And he'd played Ben Bramlett.
Same kind of,
exactly. Right. Yeah. And then Ralph Howard doing the 10-10 wins announcement that bookends the entire movie. Ralph Howard, who was the voice of 10-10 Wins, and anybody who lived through 9/11 in New York remembers him as the constant voice through this, and he had that, you give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world thing that starts the movie and ends it. And if you're a New Yorker, this movie feels like a day in your life.
It really does. It feels very true to it, and while still being true to this Howard Hawks thing. I mean, in a lot of ways, there's also all these nods to the Front Page and His Girl Friday, which are two much older movies from the 40s.
Right.
Actually, the Front Page is 30s, and His Girl Friday is a 40s film with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell, and they're in the newspaper business together, and it's very fast talking. It's one of those early examples of incredibly fast dialogue and incredibly speedy scenes that go by incredibly quickly, with actors just rapid firing off amazing dialogue. And it's the thing, I gotta hand it to Ron Howard. It's really not easy to do that and have it feel real. Sometimes people can do that kind of thing and it feels like an imitation of Howard Hawks or that kind of 40s style, but he really managed to make it a complete homage to that, and just as fast and clipped, but also updating it enough to feel like it was real for that audience. Which was a big magic trick. I mean, he's it's remarkable when you look at his career as a director, the kinds of the variety of movies that he's taken on. And a lot of people call him like a journeyman director. Somebody that is about the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes of putting movies together, and that he doesn't really necessarily have a personality as a director. But I don't understand really that as a complaint, particularly when so many of my favorite directors from the old days in the studios were the same thing. Howard Hawks was the same way. He would do any genre and helped to create all these different genres. And so Ron Howard's work here is really amazing. I'm really excited to find out more about some stuff I might not even know about how he made this movie, because there's a lot of really notable things about it that surprised me. Did you see it when it came out?
I did see it when it came out, and loved it. Actually, I knew a little bit about it before it came out, because when it was being shot, I was bartending at a place called Coastal on the Upper West Side. And by happenstance, a woman who was a friend of mine from college was the unit publicist. She came wandering into the bar one afternoon looking for a place for Michael Keaton to do an interview with somebody. Somebody was doing a profile on him while they were shooting the movie. And she didn't know I was tending bar there. I don't think. Maybe she did. But she came into the bar and said, "Hey, can I bring them in here like right around opening when it won't be crowded? And can you tuck them in a corner of the bar and make sure they're left alone, that Michael Keaton is left?" And I was, absolutely, sure. Right. So I took care of them. And what I'll never forget is my entire interaction with Michael Keaton was, brought them their drinks. They had their drinks. I left them alone. They did their interview. And when it was over, they looked at me and gave me that, check sign with their hands or whatever. Yeah. And my friend Julie Kuhndorf, who is the unit publicist, had said she was going to come back later and take care of the bill. So not to, and I gave them the, sort of universal bartender, get out of here. The New York, get out of here. And Michael Keaton, and for some reason, this has stayed with me as some like moment of pride for me in my life. Michael Keaton reaches forward onto the bar and he goes, "Thanks, barkeep." And I was like, "Hey," Keaton called me barkeep.
I would take that. That would be a big day for me too. That would be.
It was awesome. I mean, and we've met, in how many hundreds of huge stars, or we came home and they were in our living room like playing flute with dad or something. And some little moment like that with Michael Keaton can still be Hey, he called me barkeep. This made my day.
Well, that's partly because he called you barkeep and wasn't talking to Dad, which is what would happen at the house.
Exactly.
So, you know.
And barkeep, too. There was something about barkeep. You know,
he's a classy person. He's a really interesting guy. For those who don't know, this was right in the middle of his just huge superstardom.
Yeah.
You might not know it if you're not old enough to remember, but he at that time, he was kind of a rare superstar. He was really exploding, and partly was Batman. He had already made the first Batman movie, the first one. Like, this was the one that started the whole idea of kind of doing these big superhero movies at that level.
And he was really, really good in it.
Well, he's my favorite Batman.
Mine too.
That's just me. I'm an old guy now, but he was great in that movie, and great in so many things. I mean, Beetlejuice was a huge and just impacted me. His performance in Beetlejuice just blew my mind. But here he was, like, it was post Batman. I think he was trying to figure out how to make a case for what kind of an actor he could be, because he actually, I think, almost was too good for the room most of the time. I think he could do almost anything that
he doesn't fit a category well.
No,
you don't say, "Oh, Michael Keaton, he's."
No, he can do whatever you need that guy to do, but he's so magnetic and so just fascinating to watch on camera all the time, and so funny. This was a great thing for me to revisit. Now, interestingly, I didn't see this in the theater. This was '94. I was living in LA and writing kind of horror movies and in a different mode. And so I was like, I was thinking about movies like Pulp Fiction, and The Paper at the time was more of a date movie than I was kind of ever going to see in the theater.
And which is all I ever want to go on. So
you love date movies, and I like good ones, but that's not the kind that I was drawn to, and at that time. And so when I met our guest, who was a close personal friend of mine, one of the films.
You guys know each other?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We've had some interactions.
Okay.
And so then I had to see this film, because this film is a pretty important one to them. And so I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it late.
Well, I do have to say about that, and maybe after I say this, we should bring our guest on, that in the years, obviously when I saw the movie, I had never met our guest. And when I saw the movie and up until now, her scenes are the ones that I remember.
Yeah. Interesting.
If somebody says, tell me about that movie, those are the scenes. I mean, I remember sort of generally the whole film, but those scenes are the ones that pop and that I remember.
Which is true for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. Everybody I've spoken to since I told them we were lucky enough to land this person for the show. So should we bring them on?
I don't see why not. I think this is a perfect time to introduce our guest.
All right. Why don't you introduce our guest for us?
Well,
Pop her right in. Ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Hi there.
There she is.
Who is this?
Hi.
Welcome to the show, Amelia Campbell.
I guess should I put my full name on there?
Oh, we'll say Amelia here. Amelia Campbell.
Well, you can type it in if you want.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amelia Campbell.
Thank you so much for joining us here.
We are giddy with excitement to have you here.
I think it's very funny that my hair is very similar to my hair in the movie.
So
That is not something I could say about a movie that was made that long ago. If you look at movies that I'm in from that long ago, my hair is significantly different.
Yeah, mine is a bit different as well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You guys rock. This is a really fun show.
Oh well, thank you so much. I mean, you might be in a similar boat as I am, and being like your review of it being a little suspect, only in that you might be biased. I mean, I've said that we're friends, and I think that's, you know, that might cause some confusion with the viewers. Right. How truthful am I going to be?
You mean that we're friends?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're talking about the movie, and you're talking about this show, and I just, you know, I want to make sure we know it's being legit.
I'm keeping it legit. I don't care what kind of friends you are. I would talk smack about her if I didn't think her performance was stunning in this movie.
So this is exciting to have you on the show, to say the least. I met you not long after you made this movie, because I looked at the timeline there, and this movie came out in '94, or did you shoot it in '94 and it came out that year? Do you remember?
I don't remember it being a long, you know, like sometimes it can take a few years. I don't remember it being that long, but you know, I hadn't made a lot of movies, so it's sort of relative, I think. But I would guess that it was either made in '93 and came out in '94.
It was made in '93 because I was still bartending, and I got married in May of '93 and stopped bartending in September of '93. So at that bar, yeah, that's when I stopped bartending. So my barkeep moment had to have been in '93.
I'm Batman.
Now,
he's my favorite Batman too.
Well, we should probably, you know, give this away. Should we give this away now?
No. Let's talk about that you played in the film.
Robin.
You played Robin in Batman. Wow.
I wanted to play Robin in Batman.
You played Robin in. That's astounding. But who did you play in the paper?
Batman. Batman.
I didn't even see that part of the movie. I thought I saw the whole thing.
Yeah. Batman and the barkeep.
The part of the movie that you're in is really, really like the best part of the movie. It's a really wonderful movie. I love it. And I feel like your section stands out. It's kind of like a short film, its own little movie within the movie of the paper.
Why don't you tell us your part of the story? And then we can show a clip.
Oh, you mean my part in the film?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I play I was very young at the time. A photographer for this paper, and Michael Keaton's character decides he finds out about the story, and he wants to prove that these kids are innocent. I don't remember if I'm right. Anyway, he asks me to try to get a picture of the two suspects, even though he's strongly discouraged, because I believe someone in the film refers to my character as green.
Yeah. Well, he thinks you're going to fail. That's why he sends you, because he does not think you will succeed.
See, I didn't even know that part.
Yeah. He doesn't want to get that photograph.
That changes everything.
Yeah, because if they get the photograph, they might be able to run the story that he doesn't want run.
I thought he does want the story run.
He doesn't want it run unless they can prove that those kids are innocent.
Oh, yes, right.
But if you get the photograph, they'll be able to put that photograph on the front page with the headline "Gotcha." And so he's like, "Yeah, I'll send somebody down there. Why don't you go?" So he has set you up to fail.
Wow, I didn't know. I'm so glad I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you've been completely set up to fail, and you go down there and go through this horrible thing, which I want to ask questions about how that's filmed.
Okay.
You end up in the dark room, and should I show this clip?
Sure, yeah.
So you come back from this horrible situation trying to get this photograph. You don't know whether or not you've gotten it, and this is what we see.
Anything in focus. Oh, shit. I am fired. Shit. Oh, that's it. I got it!
Love it.
I get goosebumps remembering that.
Do you recall the audition for this movie?
I do. Actually, it's strange because I don't remember most of my auditions, but I really remember this one because I came off of a really awful subway experience, and I walked into the audition, and it was, I don't know, I didn't know that it was better to not act like you had a life. And I just was kind of, just this awful. And the casting person, and I realize now I should have looked her up because she was so amazing. And I just saw her eyes light up. And I just knew that I brought an energy in that hadn't been brought in. And I just felt like this shift happen. You're muted.
I didn't want any echo from you. You got the feeling that leaving the room that you may have gotten this. It went that well.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
You leaving the room in the audition. You felt that you may have gotten the part.
I mean, but again, it's one of those things that I was so I'd had so few opportunities to get a part of this size that it was both one of those, this actually really could happen, and I can't believe it could actually happen because it's like my dream coming true.
I'm just looking here at the casting. It was by Janet Hershenson and Jane Jenkins. I don't know if they're.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the first day? You obviously remember what the first day was on the set. Were you shooting that day, or did you meet people like the first day of shooting, or did you have a read through of it, or?
I wasn't a part of a read-through. I don't remember day to day. I remember being on the set, which was in an actual apartment, an office complex down near the South Street Seaport. And I remember doing a lot of wandering around, and a lot of people thinking that I was on the crew. And it may have been because they actually were kind enough to let me take the camera that I use in the film home for a few weeks to get familiar with it.
Now, this is the scene that I want to ask you about. The scene where you're down there getting the photograph.
Yeah.
Because that scene is a madhouse of people, of extras, of action, of a lot of stuff that seems choreographed. I mean, doesn't look choreographed, but must have been choreographed so that people didn't get hurt. you falling
Feels
down,
that way. Mhm.
a crowd stepping on and around and over you. I mean, it's just, how long did that, that's when they're doing the perp walk of the two kids out of the prison and to a bus, out of the arraignment,
Yeah.
the jail where the arraignments are, and then onto a bus that's going to take them to Rikers. And you are sent there to try and get a photograph of them when it's been this high profile murder, and every newspaper and camera crew from every news station in the world is there with their experienced reporters and crews. And here's this little intern desperate to keep her job. And that scene is a madhouse. How long did it take to shoot that scene?
Again, I don't remember time-wise. I remember that it was the cameraman was on a Steadicam, so he was running after me. And there were times where they asked me to slow down because Ron Howard, I think he wanted me to try as much as I really could to get a picture. And of course, my height helped with that because I'm short. And then the fall itself, I think we shot in several different stages. At one point, they actually had a soft, like, thing that looked like cement, but it was actually padded for me to fall onto.
It's like a fake square of the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I honestly, it's such a long time ago. I was just pumped full of adrenaline and thrill to be there. And he just wanted me to be as completely immersed in the character and in the world as I could be. So there's a lot I didn't really pay attention to.
Well, you were paying attention to what you had to. Before we continue, I realized as a special guest, you really should get some kind of a treat for being here. You've done already so much for us. So I don't have a lot, but I thought maybe you'd like some chocolate or something like that as a special treat. So let me see if I can do anything about that.
Okay. There are cats attacking each other up on the bed too. I don't know.
I'd just like to. This is actually just from the show.
Hey, wait a second.
To Amelia, this is a chocolate for thank you for being here.
Wait a second. How did this happen?
Brought me a chocolate. Thank you.
I'd have done that right at the top of the show, but I realized now was as good a time as any. But so thank you so much for being here.
Hey, wait a second.
That's magic. That is the magic of the world.
How did you guys
that
do
we
that?
work in?
I have friends.
So how do you guys know each other?
Funny you should ask that. Amelia and I met like a year after this movie came out.
So you guys like hang out and stuff?
We did after we got married.
That's right. I was at your wedding.
Yeah.
God.
Yes, you were.
After we
I
got
get
married,
so wrapped up in doing the show sometimes that
I can understand. After we got married, we started hanging out almost all the time.
like crazy.
We live together. Right? It's
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's how you did that thing of him walking.
I just walked over to her part of the apartment. I'm not usually allowed back there, but during a social event, she lets me in there, and
Yeah, we have to have boundaries, especially during these times.
Crazy talk.
If it involves show business.
This is completely nuts. So, now that I know that you guys are married, I want to point something out. You were talking about what an incredible director Ron Howard is. And, one of the things that I noticed that's so brilliant about him, there's another director whose work I think is really exceptional, Adam Arkin. And I noticed a similarity between Adam Arkin's work and Ron Howard's work is that Ron Howard cast his brother in this movie. And Adam has cast us in things that he's directing, which is, again, a mark of brilliance.
So in other words, we've both pulled a Clint.
We've both yes, we've pulled a Clint.
We've Clinted.
Yeah. Clint Howard.
Adam directed me in something too.
He's so good.
Yeah, he did.
What did he direct you in? Oh, that's right, Louisiana, my
My
Louisiana.
Louisiana Sky. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had to turn down working with Sidney Lumet to work with Adam Arkin. How about that?
Sydney, a hack from way back.
Speaking of great directors,
Tough decisions in this business for sure.
What?
You have to make some tough decisions.
You do have to, yeah.
For sure.
well, I thought, since we're talking about great directors, there also happens to be another great director who is Anthony Arkin, who directed me in his feature film Sender,
which is coming out soon.
We hope so. We're trying to sell a movie in COVID times, so it's an interesting time for show business. But
crazy.
But yeah, we all haven't worked together yet in something that would be fun.
That's true. We're starting something here, you guys.
That's right. You and
I had a bid.
You and I haven't acted together. Well, yeah, except in Joan of Lorraine when you were.
When I was in knee pants. Is that what they call it?
You were in breeches.
Knee pants.
Knee pants.
I'd like to see knee pants.
I want to show another clip from the movie. A moment in the film that is one of my favorite moments in the movie because I moved out to LA 10 years ago and I missed New York terribly at first, and then started to feel like a lot of the New York that I miss doesn't exist anymore. And the New York that I miss is the New York in this movie. And
well put.
And the part of me that is still a New Yorker is perfectly typified by this moment when Michael Keaton has been offered a job at the fancy paper in town, the Sentinel. Wow. And he goes for an interview there and kind of tanks the interview, but not completely. But while he's at the interview, he manages to steal a piece of information off of the desk of the head of the Sentinel who's offered him this job.
The great Spalding Gray.
Yeah, the Spalding Gray. And this is a conversation they have later on the phone when Spalding Gray confronts him on the phone for stealing this piece of information. And it sort of typifies how I feel in my soul about New York City right here.
I'll check on that for you, Paul.
Give it up, Henry. Give it up. Our guy saw McDougal banging on doors all over the Justice Department. Now, I'm going to ask you one last time. Did you or did you not take the item?
Well, Paul, you realized you were talking to a journalist.
Dick who?
I realize, this doesn't exactly get us off on the right foot.
The right foot? Are you out of your mind? Well, the office rescinded. How stupid do you think we are?
Paul, listen.
When I put 2 and 2 together, 3 and a half.
Hey, Paul, look, I'm trying to be reasonable here. If you just let me.
Why don't you just take my wallet as well, hey?
Let me say so. Wait a minute.
Well, I hope you're satisfied, asshole. You just blew your chance to cover the world.
Really? Well, guess fucking what? I don't really fucking care. You wanna know fucking why? Because I don't fucking live in the fucking world. I live in fucking New York City. So go fuck yourself.
You handle that well.
Thank you.
that to me is the essence of being a New Yorker.
Yeah,
that scene.
He's just so good in this movie.
Yeah. What a great. I mean, it must feel. I mean, I know you like his work, and we're both fans of him and everything. But to be in a movie where you have such a key part of a film that he's in, that's one of these great films of his, and he's gone on to have this legacy. That's just really cool. It's really cool. It's not just you great in it, and it's a really nice experience and everything for you to remember. But this thing is also so current today. It's an amazing thing to see a movie that's we're still talking about the same things that are, the case in this film, for instance, is so we watched it together and we were both kind of like shocked because one of the things we didn't really remember was the nature of this case that they were all trying to talk about, because it's not really pushed, it's part of the film, but they don't, it's mostly with the journalists at the newspaper office, and they're infighting and their stories and stuff. But the story that they're following is really tragically so similar to stuff we're dealing with today. So that was a real interesting thing about the movie. But just to be a part of something that's only going to get better with age. I think, this film, I don't really even know how well it did when it came out. I assume it did pretty well. But again,
I don't know.
That idea that you're talking about, the moral dilemma at the heart of the film, is something that's being talked about now with what's going on in politics, and that idea of that we're right today. It doesn't matter if we're right tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
And there's that great, part of your whole world can change in 24 hours, but we only have to be right for a day is Glenn Close's line when Glenn Campbell and Glenn Close starring in Glenn Campbell, Glenn Close. She says we only have to be right for a day. That's as good as alternative facts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's true how that was a discussion that was being had in '94 as well.
Yeah.
Very little has changed. I'm just so curious, because when we met, you had already made this movie, and I hadn't seen it yet. I saw it when we met, for damn sure, and luckily I loved it, and it was really actually genuinely a movie I was like kind of amazed that I hadn't seen in the theater, because it's so many things that I like in it. You talked about them giving you the camera. You said like 3 weeks before you were shooting.
I had it for a few weeks because I wanted to get comfortable with really taking pictures with it. So I was, and I did. I actually took a lot, and I took quite a few pictures I was really proud of, even though it wasn't it was all digital. So it wasn't like I learned how to.
It wasn't I thought it was a 35 millimeter camera. It had to be. They didn't have digital.
They didn't have digital.
Oh,
it was 35.
Not digital. Oh, geez. See, this is why it focused itself.
Autofocus.
Autofocus.
Yes. Autofocus.
You really were the intern who doesn't know what she's doing.
It's a miracle I got the picture. It's a miracle.
You took some good pictures, which we still have, that you were taking around the city when you were getting ready for this part.
I got really into it. I researched Margaret Bourke-White. I found out about the whole art of not just taking pictures, but then actually the art of developing them, and how you can make a piece of art out of how you develop film, which I didn't know. So I always used to love doing research. So I took that part seriously, and they were really gracious enough to let me take the camera for a while.
Did you ask them yourself for the camera, or did they offer it, or was that?
No, I think I had my agent ask for it.
But it was probably your idea, I would imagine.
It was my request.
Oh, okay.
I didn't think they would say yes, because I could have lost it or broken it, or I was a young whippersnapper.
And whippersnappers are always breaking things and losing things.
Those
whipping, snapping them.
Had you now? It was one of the scenes that I wanted to pick which scene I picked to show for you. So I picked the scene that made me fall in love with you even more than I was already falling in love with you at the time.
Get
But
a room.
the scene with you at the in the dark room is a really amazing. It's an amazing piece of acting, I thought, when I saw it, and I still think so. Because you go through so many different emotions completely by yourself in that space. It's so genuine. The desperation to absolute exaltation. It's incredible. Like, change in energy very quickly, all by yourself. And I think it's always been a really notable scene to me. But you also got to work with the man himself. You had a nice scene with
Michael Keaton.
with Batman, and I like to call him Batman.
I had a scene with Batman.
Do
Yeah.
you have memories of what it was like to work with him and shoot that scene?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I was so nervous, which you can tell, but they used it very well, I think. The character's nervous.
For sure.
I mean, my God, she's asked to, get this really, she knows how important it is.
Yeah.
And
well, the whole plot hinges on you getting this photograph. I mean, for a while, everything about the movie hinges on whether you, this completely naive photojournalist, is going to be able to get this really hard to get photograph.
Yeah.
And, like, the paper's at stake, like the whole state of the paper and everything. It's
well, I thought he put me like but clearly Matthews corrected me and that he didn't actually think I was going to get the picture.
Yes, I understand, but
you don't think that.
No,
your character thinks that he's put his faith in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good that you didn't know.
Yeah, it's very good. I didn't know that. Yeah.
I didn't know it either. If it's any consolation, I just got excited that you were in a movie, and I was like, "Oh, she's got to get this shot. It's important." So I didn't realize what was going on. But
it's also a phenomenal shot that you get.
Yeah, it's true.
That's like a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph.
I'll go one better and say that it's phenomenal also because it's absolutely accurate. It's the shot she would have gotten from that angle on the ground. And usually movies don't do that. Movies are usually sloppier than that. And they do an as if. And that was great. The details in this are just fantastic. The thing that really drove me out of my mind seeing it, I was so happy and excited, was the fact when I realized, because I had forgotten where you shot it. I knew you made the movie in New York, but I assumed that most of it was on a soundstage, just because you assume that about big movies with this many stars in it and that much money, that the easier control soundstage would save them money and they'd go for that. But there's one shot in the film. It's actually, I think it was the first time we go into Duvall's office, and he's got a corner office, and you see boats and stuff moving in the background, and you're like, oh, this is actually a real place.
Yeah,
they shot the whole thing in a real place, and that really did so much, I think, to give the cast a sense of purpose. I would imagine that realism must have really helped with the actors in that space, and that kind of reality. I was just marveling at the details they were able to get, and I bet those sparked ideas as they were shooting. But
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Do you remember walking into that building the first time and what it was like to see your area and the layout of everything? And
well, I again, I hadn't done that many movies, so for me it wasn't like, I didn't really have anything to compare it to.
Only The Exorcist 3.
Yes, where they built a whole recreation of Grand Central Station.
That was a big set. That was even bigger.
Yeah. But I came from theater, and for me it was like, this was the set, but it felt like a newsroom. It felt chaotic and crazy, and it was a mess, and there were people everywhere, and there was either the cast or crew, or it is kind of insane when you think of how clearly and specifically it was choreographed, just like the scene with me falling on the ground and getting the picture. Like, it was this chaotic mess that worked, and I
So-
don't know how they did that.
Even in like in terms of where like the green room and holding was, and just the logistics of where people could be, I would imagine got pretty complicated just because it was a real place. So
Yeah, I don't remember holding or a green room. I may not have wanted to sit still. I just remember wandering around a lot.
Right.
And just I think I just had a lot of, nervous, restless energy. So I don't actually remember parking anywhere. Like nowadays it's like, where's my trailer, or where's my
cubicle
chair?
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, base camp. When you're in a set like that in a building, base camp is usually outside somewhere
Yeah.
for the principals.
I think that they actually had, if I'm remembering correctly, they had a couple of floors.
I would bet.
So the set was one floor, and then
Just for timing, because you were too high up to make it logistically feasible for outside camp to get up 40
yeah,
stories.
no. We were definitely. I remember costumes in the building. I remember looking in one of the there was a big mirror, so I guess it was a lobby. And then there was some construction too, so it may have been that some of the building was under construction
Right.
for part of that.
Was
But
there were you in anything that was cut out of the movie?
Not that I know of. Can't say that much now these days.
But you don't remember shooting something that didn't end up that didn't end up in it. Everything you shot ended up in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, clearly the scene where she's in her Robin costume was cut out of the movie because we never even see that.
Yeah.
They decided that people might not get that.
There were a couple of things on the chat. Did you see that, Matthew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Love the film and that scene of Amelia getting the photo on her back and then excited to find she didn't get the show. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of work. I mean, it's a standout. Your character's this standout short little film in the middle of this other crazy movie. And I just think it's a real gem. You had already done a few things, though. You had already done Exorcist 3, which I was always fascinated by because I'm a horror nut.
Yes.
And you had done oh wait, I'm looking for
Single White Female.
White Female was before this. Yeah.
Was my first speaking role, then Single White Female. Yeah. And then I don't remember if Simple Twist of Fate. I think Simple Twist of Fate was around the same time as The Paper, but I'm not sure which one. I think Twist of Fate was after because I was blonde in that one.
Is that how we have to track it? Yeah, I've never had to change
A little
hair
bit
color for something. So. And Simple Twist of Fate with Steve Martin. Was filmed with him.
And then I was in a play of his, which is how we met. But that's a whole other conversation.
So this was several projects before we met. This was you had many things under the belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this has always been one of those, real gems in my life. And seeing it was, I'm so happy that it stands up the way it does. It just everybody is so good in it. Marisa Tomei is just so great in it. It's so crazy to think that she and I are so close in age because we play so different on camera.
Well, in that movie, for sure. I mean, you definitely were playing up the age difference, but I don't know. I always knew you guys. It's hard for me to know because I know you guys are the same age.
I look like such a baby to myself in this movie.
Was there anybody? I mean, I know you said you were already a fan of Michael Keaton's when you made this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were nervous shooting that scene with him. Was there anybody else that was like particularly shocking for you to meet, or did you actually? I mean, I'm sure you met everybody, but you didn't really work with any of the actors.
No, I didn't really meet everybody else. I mean, partly again because I was just in my own bubble of this play that I was doing. This little you know, and I was very focused. And, you know, sometimes I think I look back and I think because I was so nervous that I probably wasn't paying as much attention as I could have to, you know, opportunities I may have had to meet other people. I remember them shooting a scene with Robert Duvall and thinking I could meet him, but it wasn't quite the right timing, that kind of thing.
And that kind of thing can be so awkward.
Someone is talking about My Louisiana Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of glad 2 weeks because it wasn't an easy movie to watch in Canada, but was able to see it and loved it. Also loved performance in My Louisiana.
Oh, because we had to delay this 1 week because I was sick last week.
Oh, that's right.
They got
okay. It wasn't easy to catch that in Canada. I see.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad you were able to see it.
I'm glad I was sick last week, Sandra.
Thank goodness, man. You should get sick more often. It'd be really great for people.
I'm glad it wasn't the COVID.
Wasn't the COVID. Oh, and this gentleman popping in, Josh Gelman.
Hello, Josh.
You remember Josh? He was the editor of Necessary Parties.
I do remember Josh.
Great fellow. Good to see you here, Josh. I wanted to ask you, Amelia, this is off the topic of your performance, but it's about the movie, and Tony is of the male persuasion, and I am as well.
Where are you going with this?
Well, there's some stuff that came up for me watching the movie in terms of the feminist perspective that I'd like. You know, I may not be the smartest person in the world about that stuff, but
or the most feminine person in the world.
The argument, the big fight between Michael Keaton, or the issue between Michael Keaton and Glenn Close, that then comes to a head in the big fight as they're trying to stop, as he's trying to get her to stop the presses. And it seemed to me that if we go back to then, to 1994, that what they were doing with her character was, by the standards of the time, feminist, and looking at it now, horrible in a way, because what she has this great speech of saying, you have no idea the crap that I put up with every day to do the job that I do in a man's world. And yet at the same time, they've cast her as the bitch bean counter who's stopping the men from doing what they need to do their jobs the way men do their jobs. So I'm wondering if it was more feminist at the time and just hasn't aged well, or, you know, because there's so many things that at the time are a step forward and now seem like a step back in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So just wondering if you had any reaction to that issue / scene in the movie, or perspective on it.
Well, I was actually struck. I remember there were a couple different thoughts I had. Like, I thought it was interesting that dynamic was chosen to be told between a man and a woman, because it would have been an interesting, very different thing if it was two men.
Yes.
And that it was also about them being competitors, and that it wasn't necessarily about their sex at all. And I thought that was an interesting take on it. I honestly have not been a big, like, feminist in terms of, well, that's, you know, that shouldn't be that, or that. Like, I don't think that way for some reason. So I feel a little bit self-conscious even saying that. But I do.
I'm in a position now where because of teaching at Chapman, I find myself thrust in the middle of these conversations and learning a perspective from my students that I might not have naturally had, and certainly wouldn't have had back then.
Yeah.
So I can sometimes find myself cringing at stuff that I know wasn't the intent, and even may have at the time been progressive in one way, but now we cringe because we're seeing that somebody took 2 steps when we want them to have taken 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
do
mean,
have the scenes in the movie that imply that she's trying to sleep her way to a promotion or a raise.
yeah, she is playing that kind of part, and clearly that isn't the standpoint of Ron Howard or the storytellers, because you've got Marisa Tomei's storyline,
Right,
which is very much
different.
Yeah. So I think it's more to do with her character, Glenn Close's character.
Right. But even with the Marisa Tomei part, at the end of the movie, the miracle of childbirth makes her no longer angry about giving up her career, which her husband, who's the man, is going to continue to do and have her support, because she's not angry about any of the things she was angry about anymore because of the miracle. For the moment. Right. Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah.
I don't believe Marisa Tomei played. She played that part in a way that made me pretty sure she'd be back at that paper in 6 months.
Yes.
With the baby under her arm if need be.
Right.
And the clarity she had when she called him out.
When she called him out. And she's the one who, in some ways, along with you, saves the day by getting that piece of information from shout out to Jim Meskimen, who plays the guy who she has dinner with, who is Marion Ross's son and one of the best mimics in the entire world. He's the fellow who does that Edmund's dream speech and imitates like 25 different actors doing Edmund's speech from Richard the Third.
I'm not
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah.
Not a trained actor, so when you guys are done talking about
Shakespeare, I'm not a trained actor either. I've just read
this is a show about movies. What the hell's happening here?
Hey, I said Marion Ross, for God's sake. Happy day.
Shakespeare. Are we serious? Let's talk about Kenneth Branagh movies then for a while. Sleep. Good
there are
Lord.
always things to learn.
Okay.
I don't mind saying it either. That man's movies have put me to sleep for 30 years.
Whose movies?
Shakespeare?
Kenneth Branagh's movies. Shakespeare's movies.
Another question I want to ask. This is not.
You know what? No, I'm going to stop us because we're not allowed to show clips anymore with other good actors in them and not say anything about, for instance, Lynn Thigpen.
Oh my God!
Kicked it out of the park in a one word sentence, and that she's fantastic always, but. I mean, there are so many. Roma Mafia shows up and kills it. There's so many amazing people. Jeffrey Owens, who I was so happy to see in this. Jeffrey Owens, who recently had that crazy thing happen where he has a part-time job at Whole Foods during this economic trouble.
That's right.
And this whole thing happened because people made him
it was Trader Joe's.
It was Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Oh, poor guy having to have a real job.
He had the best reaction to that.
Amazing.
And the coolest part about it is that he's a really good actor. And I see him in something like this, and I'm like, I hope he's working right now. And
Jack McGee, Tony Hody,
Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
Nuts. So great.
Jason Alexander shows up, people that you'd never thought you'd see in a room together.
Michael Countryman and Bruce Altman.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the list goes on.
Edward Hibbert.
Is it Siobhan? I don't know how do you pronounce it. Siobhan Fallon Hogan.
Yeah.
Always great, even though I don't know how to say her name properly. It's just a treasure trove of
and William Kunstler.
One person after another.
Yeah.
And It does make me miss New York. This
And
movie
Victor
a lot,
Truro-
particularly
Victor
now.
Truro, who I was in acting class with. I was in Uta Hagen's acting class with Victor Truro.
I remember
Victor Truro actually knew my father.
Sweet guy, Victor.
Strange. I
Lovely
forgot.
guy.
I forgot he was in this, but yeah.
Do you remember anything about working with Ron Howard on that, like what it was like to work with him, particularly, or was that also kind of just a blur?
I just remember him being really, really warm and really enthusiastic, and knowing that he was completely on my side.
Mm.
Which it may sound like, well, of course, but it's not. There's often, and especially on a big Hollywood set, it can be really intimidating. And I felt very, very supported. And I remember that there was something, I think, that we had to reshoot my coming out with the photograph, and I don't remember why. There was something technical, I think. But I remember when I did, and when I knew that we got it, was he said, "It's like you won your Oscar."
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Had you done Broadway by the time you did this? Do you remember? You had already been on Broadway, right?
I think I had definitely been in Our Country's Good, which I was nominated for, and then I think I had done A Small Family Business again because I had red hair.
Okay. It's just so interesting, if there are actors listening to this, just like what you're talking about, being nervous going onto the set to do this scene and work with these people, but you're also somebody that had just been in two of these Broadway shows and just had a Tony nomination for the one you'd just done, and it's just an interesting thing that that never leaves. Like, it doesn't really matter what you've done or what you just did last month. It's always the thing that you're doing now that you're afraid you're going to get fired from, or that that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
Also, doing the kind of role that you did, and Tony and I have talked about this a number of times, that there is almost no harder job in show business than having 1 day or 2 days on a movie, because there's 100 people who have been working together for a month, and there's only one thing that can go wrong today, and it's you.
Yeah. That's not terrifying at all.
No, not at all. Like, how is this new person gonna screw everything up for us? Our oiled machine.
That's the sad part about there not being a table read that you were at least involved in this, because it felt like the kind of movie that, of course, there'd be a big group reading of this, like everybody would be in a room together, because that's the energy of the movie. It feels like a big happy family doing a show together, because it feels like that, but that's not how things are shot.
They, for all I know, they'd already started shooting when they hired me. I'm not sure.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I've actually, in my career, I've only been invited to one table read for any on-camera job.
Yeah, I know that's kind of the tradition, but it's, for some reason, this movie has the spirit, spirit about it that feels like everybody's in an ensemble, and that they, of course, would have been friends and known each other. Just it has that spirit of movies, like the old Howard Hawks movies. Did you feel when you did this, were you aware of His Girl Friday, or the kind of filmic references that they were making in this movie to earlier newspaper movies?
Not really. No. I kind of wish that I had a little bit more of an idea of just how exciting a thing I was a part of. Although I think under the circumstances, it was already really exciting.
Yeah, it was plenty exciting.
Here I am coming to New York, and I want to be on stage, and then I'm playing a part like this in a Ron Howard movie with Michael Keaton. So, that in itself was really exciting. And it's so exciting now to think about. Like, we're all so hard on ourselves, and we all forget all the really wonderful work we've done. And It's a really it's
I
important.
never
It's
forget.
important.
I
You-
never forget the wonderful work that I've done.
I don't either, because there's not that many things to remember. It's a short list. I have them memorized. And there's been
I'm going to do a medley of my hit right now.
there's been a lot of time to sit and think about my hit.
My hit.
I want to ask you something, Tony, because I don't know if our viewers know this, but Tony and I, we do not discuss the movies before the show, so that our responses to it are secret from each other. That I might hate it and he might love it, and we can get into it. Yeah, get into fisticuffs. And then sometimes, like you sent a clip. One of the clips that you sent, I haven't looked at. I just see that the title of it is The Glass. And one of my notes is on how amazing the production design and details are in this movie.
Mhm.
And one of my notes regarding that is about a glass. And I'm wondering if we're talking about if we both picked up on the same thing.
This is my favorite movie moment in the movie, like just movie thing that they do.
Okay. Well, let's play the clip and then I'll see it.
Well, let me just say what it also this shows you a little bit of the atmosphere of the newspaper room, a little bit of more of Keaton's performance, and then something happens at the end, which is I just adore.
Okay, and I'll see if we're picking up on the same thing.
Oh.
Bill is still pissed you wouldn't approve his $600 orthopedic chair. And now with this desk thing, he's convinced it's a conspiracy to prevent him from sitting down.
Hackett, hello.
Henry, it's Alicia.
Oh, hi.
Listen, I want to see
Alicia?
you in my office
Alicia?
before the 11 o'clock. We have to talk about
Alicia, is that you?
bullshit.
Because I'm having a hard time hearing you. Are you in the tunnel or something? Yeah, there's a lot of static. I can't. I'm losing you. Are you in the tunnel? I can't hear. Can you? We can't hear you. Okay. Hey, call. We'll see when you get in. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I love car phones. What? The press is running?
Yeah, Sunday travel section. Here, sign these. Tell me what you want to do about Phil.
Okay. Well, I was talking about something else, but we did pick up on the same kind of thing of that setting that idea of that they always know when the presses are running, that something's going, that comes back.
This is perfect for us because we have a completely, yes, but that's not why I like it at all. That's completely, yes, that's narratively brilliant. Yes. But what else does that do? Come on, let's talk about this from just a gut reaction. What does that do?
I don't know. Tell me.
It makes that building and the paper itself a living thing.
Right. Yes.
It's actually moving. Making that paper is making that building move, and right. You hear it, you feel it. It's like a heartbeat, and it's brilliant in the sense that it's a visual cue. So it's a way that they can visually tell us interesting things about it.
Right. And they're in a living thing that has
He did steal it from Spielberg. So we have to say
that bastard.
It's a direct steal from Jurassic Park. But he may have stole it from somebody else, but it's kind of famous for being in Jurassic Park. But the idea of that water glass, that glass of Coke telling us that starts to move, it's telling us something's going on. And it's such beautiful visual storytelling. It's simple, but it's real. There's also a callback to it later. I couldn't find it because it's a very brief moment where she can tell that the papers go back on.
It happens a few times and then he does when he comes in and he feels that they're running and he's like, God damn it, are they running the story?
Yeah, and it sets up that ability for them to kind of, the people that work at the paper, to be like telepathically connected to the paper, to like or be organically connected to this thing. It makes it into this living creature downstairs in the basement, which is subliminally just brilliant to me.
And it has that real feeling in a news. I worked in a newsroom for about a year and a half part-time when I was in college. And would write my story in the I had to write a story maybe once a month, and I would write it in the newsroom just because
you felt cooler.
It in my dorm room,
cooler wearing a fedora and the rubber
newsroom. I could have written it in my dorm room, but I wanted to be in the newsroom. But one of the things that, even only being there occasionally, this was back in the teletype days, and the teletype machine, whenever a story would come in, it would go ding. And if it was an important story, it would go ding ding.
It sounds very non-committal and like.
And if it was a really important story, 3 bells would go off, and maybe 1 or 2 people would get up from their desks and walk over and look at the sheets coming out. Right. And if 4 bells went off, everybody got up and everybody walked over. And I was in the newsroom one day working on my stupid little story. And so anytime, you didn't even hear 1 ding. If it went twice, you kind of went waiting for the 3rd, and there wouldn't be a 3rd. So I'm typing away, and the machine goes ding, 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 and everybody in the newsroom got up and was running over to the machine. And it was when Reagan was shot. Yeah. And it was one of those moments that I think I worked in the newsroom for a year and a half, and was probably wrote 10 stories over that year and a half. So as an intern, so the idea of having been by chance in there when an event of that magnitude happened, always stuck with me. The thing that the glass that I noticed that stood out to me was the shot of Robert Duvall, of the tall boy glass on his desk.
1 for cigarettes and 1 for drinking.
Yeah. Filled with brown liquid and cigarette. That was just unbelievably.
I had that in my notes too.
Yeah.
Amelia and I were like, I wonder if that was Duvall. That was
it was so brilliant.
Duvall's idea.
Such a brilliant touch.
Yeah.
But the production design,
soda.
Really, but the production design throughout the entire movie, it just kept going. The bathroom in the police station, the newspaper, the way the newsroom in the Sentinel, every bit of it smelled of parts of New York that you had been in.
Some of them you didn't want to smell either. I didn't want to smell Duvall's office particularly. That was in an office I did. I'd like to bring something interesting up. Amelia and I were talking about this a little while ago. This might be the last time this might have been the last sighting of Duvall before Duvall's soul was kidnapped by an old hillbilly man. Is it possible? I don't know. Something happened to him, and I think it was around here, because there was a turning point where Duvall suddenly became a very old hillbilly man.
Except you've met him.
Yeah, that was before he was a hillbilly.
No, he is an old hillbilly man in real life.
He's not. He's from San Diego, California. And he's been a movie star who lived in San Francisco, cosmopolitan guy. He's not a hillbilly.
He's from San Diego? I thought he was from Oklahoma.
No, he's from San Diego. And I'm just saying, this might be the last sighting of Duvall. That's the real Duvall. Because he's like a regular person in this. He kind of turned a corner with where Al Pacino started doing something where I'm like, it's interesting, but I don't know when you decided to. I think it was after Sendable Woman. He decided that he was going to only do that kind of performance. But this was I don't know where he got the idea to be a hillbilly. It might have been the movie after this. I could get in trouble for this. But yeah, I don't think that Duvall's going to get me hired. I just feel strongly that that's not going to happen.
Tender Mercies.
I want to bring up a couple of things that I love, Amelia. I don't know if you have anything that popped into your head while we were watching of like, I particularly love this moment or character or.
Well, I was actually thinking about something that you wrote down, which was speaking of the bathroom in the police.
I've got a clip of it.
You have great.
I have a clip of it.
Yeah. Well, then maybe I shouldn't say anything more.
Well, let's discuss it after we see the clip then, if we both like that. Do you mind showing that other clip, which is this is my favorite line of dialogue in the movie, and just a little moment that I adore.
All right, here we go.
Here's your damn clipboard, and the next time you want office supplies, don't
take
ask
the clipboard.
me.
Clipboard's for you. Hey, a clipboard and a confident wave will get you into any building in the world. How are you?
A clipboard and a confident wave will get you into any building in the world. It's just such a great line. It's just such a great line.
Can't wait to try it sometime.
From David Koepp. Great screenwriter. Also wrote Jurassic Park, in fact, and then wrote this movie.
So he didn't really steal the glass thing.
Well, the rumor has it that was Spielberg's idea, so he wrote it into the script because Spielberg wanted to do something visual with that. He may have written it. I don't know. Maybe Spielberg, was saying he did it when he didn't. I don't know.
Hey, I just got a message from Duvall, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, he had something he wanted to say to you.
Get your britches out of
What business is it of yours where I'm from? Friendo. What business?
Okay. Look, I have nothing but love for Robert Duvall, and you know that. I'm worried about him. I think someone's been impersonating him, and that person is an old hillbilly man. That's all I'm saying. I love Duvall. I worked with Duvall. I didn't work with him, but Dad worked with him, and I met him, and he bought me, Robert Duvall, bought me my first Swiss Army knife. This is a true story. This show has gone downhill.
I somehow feel responsible.
No, I'm glad you were here to see it, but I'm sorry that it had to be you on watch.
Do you guys talk about food anymore?
Matthew feels that nobody wants to hear us talk about food anymore.
I'm happy to. Nobody's interested in the food. You can look at the metrics on YouTube of when people are watching the show, and when food they stop watching. So we're going to change the name of the show. We're doing intensive market research now.
Gotcha.
Aren't we?
You should be. Polling showed that having you on the show was the only move that we could take to survive. This was the one thing we could do.
This is Sweeps Week.
Well, thank you.
For Sweeps Week, we had Amelia Campbell.
I appreciate being invited and revisiting such a wonderful little moment in my professional acting life.
I have other things I want to mention, but it sounded like you wanted to. You were done.
We can let you go if the cats are fighting. Or...
Oh, I'm perfectly happy. I just didn't.
What did you want to mention?
I just want to mention a couple things that don't get a lot of attention, and that is a couple things. So Randy Newman's score. I mean,
spectacular.
Love that man so much. Just love him. Jack Kehoe's running gag. Jack Kehoe in this movie. Let's just have a moment of appreciation for Jack Kehoe first of all.
Yeah, the chair you're talking about.
Chair gag. I mean, it's the greatest thing. And he's so into it. It's so important to him.
So important.
That ergonomic chair, it's just like nobody understands him.
Oh,
No one's
God.
listening to him. And it's so crucial. And then they play the gag on him at the end. And I just love that it's not funny to him at all. It's just not funny. I just thought he was great. And that's really all I have to say.
That's all you have to say? Let me look at my notes.
You have a list of things.
I just want to give a shout out to the men's room at the police station again.
As what part of it? I don't understand.
I love the fact that they have that whole, like the pivotal scene in the movie
is in the men's room,
at the police station, and it is as grim as you would imagine it would really be.
Yeah, it's not an attractive place.
They don't gussy it up at all.
No, it's and that's a good scene. That guy's good in it. He looked like a real cop, that guy.
Yeah. And what bar is it?
I don't know, but I've been in there 100,000 times.
I've been in that bar a million times and I can't place it, and it's spectacular.
I know it's a real bar because I've been in it, but also because they would never have shot the shooting that happens in there that badly if it had been on soundstage.
They've been able to move a wall.
The only criticism I actually ultimately have about it, the feminine aspect notwithstanding, Matthew, I'm not even going to get into that conversation. So don't never set me up like that.
Well, you're a big feminist, so
I am.
Nobody would ever argue that.
The biggest. I'm the ending in terms of just, I feel like they ran a little late that night, and it just felt like they had to we got to get Glenn Close shot in the leg through the wall. We got to have this fight happen, and we got to get him out we got to be out by 1 a.m. the latest. We can't be here anymore. And it felt a little bit like they were just kind of gritting what they could. That's all I'm going to say. That's the only weak filmmaking part of it was a little bit of that bar for craziness at the end.
Okay. What about the fun that they have with Stop the Presses?
It's great. It's pretty great.
Where it's like, come on, you got to say it.
Yeah,
you got
to say it.
You got it. When are you gonna have the chance? It's like I had something happen to me once. I got in trouble once. I was having dinner with a friend of mine who was a professional comedian at the time. And I told him a story about when I was in law school, which was on 60th Street near Columbus Circle. I was walking through Columbus Circle, and a very, very elderly woman approached me with the canes, the canes that lock around your with the handle. And she approaches me and she says, "Excuse me, Sonny, but can you tell me how to get to Carnegie Hall?" And I looked at her and I went, I looked at her and I went like this. I went,
God, yeah.
Like this, you send it to me? And I looked down at her. I said, "Yeah, it's just you walk. This is Broadway. You walk, stay to the left of the building with the circle, the circles that used to be there. Stay to the left, 57th Street, make a left, and you can't miss it." And she walked away, and I was like, "Oh, you're murder!" And I told my friend Rick Podell, and he stood up in the restaurant and started yelling at me that I had broken the law.
You broke a covenant. It's not just a law. That's a covenant.
He said, you had the opportunity and you didn't use it.
And your responsibility, let's face it, was to turn to her rather abruptly and be like, practice. And then rudely turn away and leave her there. Just like you had to have done that.
And I didn't do it.
No.
You actually could have taken one of the crutches and then said that and left.
And then taken it. Yeah. That's the legal way to handle that situation.
That's the New Yorker way to handle it. And I didn't do it. But that they put that in this movie, that he gets the chance.
My favorite thing about that is that he doesn't shout it.
He doesn't.
I love that he just kind of says it a little bit sheepishly. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I don't know.
Quite a bit, actually. I noticed that he does certain things that he could shout.
You're
not to shout.
Yeah.
You're right. he's always having a very conscious inner dialogue with his own self.
Well,
It's like his whole thing is, I've got the two devils on my shoulder.
Mm.
He always seems to be checking them with the worst part of myself and the bad.
See, that's your problem right there, Tony. It's not two devils. It's a devil and an angel. And now we know what your
one is a little eviler than the other.
Did I write that? That's
yeah. You said the two devils on your shoulder. There you go.
That's sad.
That's how you know we're married, because I didn't catch that.
You're in danger and you should get out of the.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to be single white female again.
Those two devils. Don't you have two devils on your show? What's I don't know. I mean, you don't have that?
Okay, I'm looking at my list. You got anything else on your list about this movie?
I could go on and on about how difficult I think it is to create an ensemble energy like that, and to pull off that kind of high speed dialogue and that energized kind of thing, and really do it. I just that's my big takeaway from it. Is just that it's legitimately this Howard Hawks vibe. It's not pretending to be, and I don't really know how. Because
there's love. There's all love in there.
It feels love. Like it really feels like it, and I just admire that part of it a lot. I think, Ron Howard's made movies I don't love, but I think that's because he makes movies in different genres, and some of those genres I'm just not into. But when he makes a movie that hits a genre that I like, or a thing that I like, I think he does a great job with it. So I always kind of walk away from his movies like with a lot more appreciation for him as a director than I thought I had. Mm-hmm. But I think that's that curse of that journeyman thing. When people call you that, you're not an auteur anymore.
Right.
And it's like, well, so what? I mean, and also maybe or maybe not. Has anyone actually sat down and done that inventory of everything that he's done yet? I don't know. It's like, I think he's going to be revisited in a lot of ways by a new generation of people and come out.
I'm going to jump in with two other things about the film. One, on a semi-personal note, but there's a sequence in the movie that hit me really hard for a personal reason, but also because I thought it was so incredibly well done. The scene where his wife is going into emergency surgery and his daughter is, because I was in that exact situation with the birth of my daughter. Well, it's his son in the movie. It turns out to be his son in the movie. But I was in that exact situation at 3:00 in the morning with everything going wrong, and suddenly insanity like an episode of ER. And the way that was all handled was incredibly realistic and heart-wrenching, and also looked exactly like I've never seen a hospital in a movie look like a real hospital, and that hospital looks like a New York hospital where things aren't as clean and wonderful as you want them to be as they are on television.
Right.
And then from a storytelling point of view, the wrapping up the you talked about the building as a living organism, and if we go further with that metaphor, it gives birth to a newspaper at the end of every day.
Yeah.
And she's giving birth as that newspaper is coming out, and they are both life and death stories. Is this baby gonna live? Are these kids' lives going to be ruined or saved? And they dovetail those two stories so beautifully at the end.
And will the paper itself survive? I mean, there's implications that it's not doing so well, and it needs a hot story.
It needs something like this. So all of that from a storytelling perspective wraps up seamlessly without ever hitting anything on the head too hard,
which actually then says that he's actually fought this hard for his own babies. life.
for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He put everything on the line
Yeah.
for, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she has that great line at the beginning. There are some days that will change your whole life, and this is one of them. Don't blow it.
What's
And
yeah.
he does.
It's beautiful to see like a movie that it holds up to that kind of scrutiny and that kind of, you know, detail. That's essentially a light action-y comedy. I mean, it's got drama in it, but it's much more a kind of a light drama and comedy than a heavy thing that you'd think is going to be about politics or the city. It's about all that stuff, but it still manages to have this incredibly light kind of comedic heart to it.
Yeah.
And you know, shout out to John Seal, who shot this movie. Did you know that he shot Picnic at Hanging Rock when you shot this movie?
No.
Yeah.
I've learned all about these people from you, really. I didn't pay enough attention to. I thought I was just an actor, and I was just in an actor's world.
I understand. I'm looking
Little
at
did I know.
cinematography. Yeah, so he also did Lorenzo's Oil. He was the director of photography on Lorenzo's Oil as well. One of the great DPs. Shot almost all of Peter Weir's movies, including Witness and Gallipoli. He shot Gallipoli.
Oh my God!
Wow.
And did he shoot Gallipoli? Am I speaking out of turn? No, he worked on it. He was on electrical on it. But then he went on to shoot Mad Max, like the last one. And so he's pretty fantastic.
So he worked with George Miller a couple times.
Worked with George Miller a lot. Yep. And did
Lorenzo's Oil was where my hair was dyed red for the first time.
And it's kind of the same color now.
This is my actual natural color now.
It looks quite red in this
yeah. But that actually makes me think I did Lorenzo's Oil before I did the paper. So
you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did you do Gorillas in the Midst? Oh, that wasn't you. That was John Seal. Sorry. I was reading IMDb.
I forgot about that one.
Well, I think we've covered this movie.
I've had such a great time talking about it, and it's been great to have you on the show.
It's amazing. We'd love to have you back again sometime. You know, it's a pleasure to get to know you.
It's really nice meeting you, Matthew.
To meet you.
I'm sorry it was under these circumstances, but
and we haven't decided what movie we're doing next week.
Oh God.
Exciting.
Oh my.
We don't have to do it right now. We'll be sending out a newsletter to all of you.
I don't think we should decide right now. I think we should keep this a complete show.
Okay. We'll reveal in a couple of days in our newsletter. So Amelia, thank you for joining us. Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for hosting this wonderful
event. Thank you for hosting this, Matthew. And shout out to Barbara Dana for hosting Matthew
I bet Mom's listening to this, isn't she?
She is. I can hear the echo in the other room. She's still awake listening. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Barbara.
And for all of you out there, please spread the word about this show. Give us a like. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And when you do, click the bell icon so that you get notifications of the upcoming live streams. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
See you soon.
Good night.